My name's Luke Reisler. I grew up right here in York, Pennsylvania. I was an athlete growing up, baseball, basketball, and I developed this shortness of breath, and I didn't really understand why. We just sort of assumed that it was some exercise-induced asthma. And eventually, I went to my PCP, and we eventually determined, we need to look at your heart because we think that this might be a little bit more than just some anxiety or something wrong with your lungs. One day I was sitting on the porch with my dad, and I got a call from my doctor, and it was a couple days after an echo that I had just looking at my heart. And I will never forget that conversation. He told me that I had a couple holes in my heart, and I had a couple pulmonary veins feeding into the wrong side. When you're young, you feel invincible. You think that nothing can really happen to you, and then it does. And it leads to you questioning, why me? I have one body, I have one heart. Why is this happening to me? There's no second chances here. I wouldn't say that it led me to doubt my faith, but it put my faith into a different perspective, and it made me go deeper in my relationship with Jesus because it's no longer, in my hands. And I feel like sometimes we get the perception that we're in control with the small things, and maybe the big things are out of our control, but in reality, He's in control. We're not in control. This was at the end of May in 2020. And then, the beginning of June is when I went in to try to have the holes closed. And they discovered the pulmonary veins that were backwards when they did that. So that led them to coming out and saying, look, unfortunately, we're gonna have to open you up. I remember laying there before the operation, and I told the anesthesiologist that I refused to go back until I get to see my dad again. And I opened my Bible and began reading. I was scared. I didn't really know what was gonna happen here in the next couple hours. And the first verse that I opened to was Isaiah 41:10, which says, "Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God." I really feel like God placed that intentionally for me to read, because what I was feeling before the surgery was not trust, it was doubt, and that was scary. So while the surgery did go very, very well, and the way that the surgeon described it was that it was a cure, I still think about my heart all the time. These issues aren't resolved right away. Just because you may be healed physically, you still have that emotional, mental, and spiritual aspect where you're doubting, you're contemplating, and it is on your mind a lot. Life will continue to be messy because we all struggle with things, and these issues they're heavy. Whether they be physical or emotional or spiritual, they are battles, and they aren't things that always have a clean ending. We don't know how God is protecting us at times, and there are times where we don't even realize that He has our back, but He is almighty, and I don't know why I ever doubted that. And just understanding that relationship between us and the Lord, that has really deepened my faith, because I now look at it from a different perspective. He is the potter and we are the clay, and He does what He has to do in order to shape us, in order to mold us. It's not always done how you expect, but that's where trusting His plan and trusting His timing really comes into play.